This is part 2 of our interview with Joyce Dinkins, and it's slightly out of order because we wanted to emphasize the Publishing in Color Conference coming up in about 2 weeks. So please refer to the links. Please listen to this interview, and for a reference point, go back to part 1 that we've already shared. Thank you, and listen in.
After I did the publishing work with Cook, I served at NavPress for several years, and then for about 9 years at a publishing house that is part of an auxiliary to Southern Baptist Convention, the Women's Missionary Union, in book publishing with them as a managing editor. And with respect to the progressives, that helped prepare me for, and the work at Davidson Cook, that helped prepare me for the next roles that the Lord had for me to play. And yes, along the way, it's been a delight to open doors. One of the ways that God allows that is for mentoring. And so I've had a number of people who've mentored me and still help me improve my work or work with them to help us improve an author's work. And then I've had the opportunity, the privilege to hire interns and to give them a door into the industry. One of the things I do with the Evangelical Christian Publishing Association, that Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Subcommittee, is we meet regularly and talk about programs. One of them, in fact, is called Open Doors. And it is a cohort of interns who go through a dynamic publishing program during the summertime, during the course of their internship. That all of that activity helps to open doors for people to know that they can come into this field. They can try it out, regardless of whatever field they're studying in school. They can come into the publishing field, and there's so many areas in publishing to gain involvement, whether it's production or editing or finance, creative, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, I have, because of the grace that God has given, the way He's orchestrated, I've had the privilege of being engaged in helping to further the representation, the lack of representation, to correct that. I was watching the public broadcasting system program earlier this week about Frederick Douglass. And I looked it up, and during the 19th century, according to a number of reliable sources, it said that he was the most photographed, not African-American, most photographed, the daguerreotype and other images that were made to show him with his piercing view and his elegant posture and the weightiness and the beauty of his blackness. He was the most imaged man in the 19th century. And the researchers attest that the reason Frederick Douglass made sure his picture was taken over and over and over again, was to address not only the underrepresentation, but in fact the misrepresentation of who Black people are, made in God's divine image, right? So representation is nothing new. The need for it is nothing new, and it continues. We can fast forward to the present day, and in the websites that we look at, the images that we see on television and in the other media that have an impact on our children and our communities. Rudine Sims Bishop she did a wonderful talk. She's a professor and the University of Wisconsin has an archive that includes one of her talks. It's called Windows, Mirrors, and Sliding Glass Doors. And it dives down, Rudine Sims Bishop, professor, dives down into the impact of the images that we see upon us. So representation, we got reading, we got writing, we got to have representation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I would add to that, the Lord just spoke to me the other day before we scheduled this interview or had this interview, is another R word is relationships. Mm-hmm. So the Lord has given me an enthusiasm for developing relationships with Black people and other indigenous people of color who also have been marginalized in terms of the imagery, the stories, the representation, the truths, okay? He's given me an enthusiasm to develop relationships with people in order to improve the representation of what we can read, in order to provide avenues for people of color to write, to share their stories, to share their beauty and their testimonies. And that's been at David C. Cook and at NavPress, at New Hope Publishers. It used to be called New Hope Publishers, and at Our Daily Bread. And I think there's been a flourishing of representation the Lord has allowed at Our Daily Bread. I'm looking across my desk, and I have resources that include dozens and dozens and dozens of Black writers, yourself included, okay? Images, I have to show you this. I hope you could see this well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And this is a relationship calendar. But this just came out and it's being tested, and it'll be released next for 2024. Yeah, but it just came out as a test for 2023. But how often do we get to see
exactly
these children? And we include European American children too. We don't exclude. We don't like exclusion. You know, I've not talked about my I don't know if he was German or Irish, my grandfather on my mother's side, you know, but I grew up in a family and we didn't hate. We didn't exclude people based upon how much melanin you've got.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
All of us have some drops of something in us. So that's a reality.
And all of them.
That's right. Yeah,
whoever them is.
Carol Channing found out later in life that she was actually, I think, either half Black or something like that. So that's one example.
Right. But the publishing work that I'm delighted and grateful to be involved in at Our Daily Bread extends to a team of people and across the ministry to do media. We have a wonderful director in partnerships and media. His name is Rasul Berry. And in fact, you were on a panel that he facilitated and directed with Christianity Today. on this special edition that we produce, right?
Yes.
But we also produced, and these are all on the shoulders of giants. There's 28 reflections, all African American writers, and so relationships, representation, reading and writing. But we also did. Where is my Juneteenth special edition here? Here it is. Rasul, along with some of our friends in Texas, put together a documentary film. Our Daily Bread is a wonderful ministry. Praise God for all of the donors who make these things possible. But we put together a documentary that's free on Juneteenth and put together this special devotional. There's an album of music. Again, representation, the stories that have been absent. I'll go back to what I said yesterday. I'll go back to what I said about growing up in an environment, in a world where I never saw myself in a book. Or if I did, it was derogatory.
Mm-hmm.
It was caricaturish, right? So I have this passion, and the Lord has given a place to exert that passion. I have to show you this. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, yeah.
This, when I got to Our Daily Bread in 2015, this was the first special edition that we did, and it was with our my fellow editor, J.R. Hudberg. Have you worked with J.R.?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well,
But I saw that year because that was given to us at our annual session.
Yes.
So I remember that.
Yeah. And so Raphael Warnock,
Mm-hmm.
Marvin McMickle was the editor on this.
Mm-hmm.
And we collaborated with him. Carol Ann Knight, Leslie Callahan, and Joseph Evans wrote pieces on, this is Progressive Voices for Social Justice.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go back to David C. Cook days, where I was so enthralled with Wyatt T. Walker and the Mitchells, Ella Pearson Mitchell and her husband, and Gardner C. Taylor and others came to the annual meetings back then, and J. Alfred Smith and Peoples and others, and the same striving for and acknowledgement of literacy and a passion for telling the stories that need to be told and showing the images that need to be shared in order to encourage people and uplift that they had. I share a little bit of that. I could see it, and it thrilled me to be involved then. And then when I came to Our Daily Bread, one of the first projects that I worked on again was the Progressives. And I do hope to see more. I was working when we met with Dr. James Evans. Mm-hmm. God bless him. He passed recently. Mm-hmm. And came down again to try to encourage the writers who are part of the Progressive National Baptist Convention. And not just the Progressive National Baptist Convention, but other denoms as well. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that I get to do, seriously, a little bit.
But now let's go to the last piece.
Yeah.
Publishing in color. That's coming up.
Yes.
And we are going to put a link as part of this video so that you who are watching can click on the link, and also put it on the tail end of this so that you can afford yourself, register and afford yourself the opportunity. It's going to be online. I know she's going to tell you about it, but let me at least open this up. It's going to be online. It's going to be a nominal cost.
Right.
It's not expensive, over
Right.
about 3 or 4 days, and it will serve you well to check it out. So we'll have a link, so you'll be able to do that and follow it. And for those of you who can't even wait on the link, you can Google it. So avail yourself of the opportunity. But you're one of the principals that's involved with this, so let you tell us about it.
Well, writers' conferences are avenues where those who are published and those who desire to publish can gain relationships and representation and opportunities. Some writers' conferences specialize in the craft. Publishing in color does provide some of that, but publishing in color is a door opener. It's an on-ramp. And I'll say that Our Daily Bread has been engaged with publishing in color since before it began. Brian Elaine is the director. He has been the director since 2000, since it was birthed. We have prayed together since it was birthed. There are a number of other notable advisors, former publisher for InterVarsity Press. You were talking about Judson Press before. Another publisher who's really made headway. I think Esau McCauley's Reading While Black is InterVarsity Press.
You're right, yeah.
Outstanding group, but their former publisher, who's now head of the ECPA, president of the ECPA, Jeff Crosby, and Brian and others prayed, and I was invited to pray. And Publishing in Color has been meeting since 2018 and providing annually one or more conferences. The virtual conference that's coming up October 31st through November 4th is at the 5-year mark. And I think that's right. Yeah, almost. And there will be editors available, literary agents, fellow writers, but primarily it's an opportunity for very nominal, comparatively very nominal cost. I don't make any monies off of this conference. I'm not here to do more than what I'm saying, and that is that it's an opportunity to get into what has been a very much a closed field in many respects. I will be speaking on relationships and the value of relationships in publishing and some other aspects of publishing. As much as I can give, I'm going to give, and but there'll be others who have more weightier things to share even, and it's I think $49.
Yes,
it's $49, and one of the things that the publishing staff members, publishers, editors, and others have done is we routinely donate our time and pay our own way as needed. And therefore, we have been able to establish a scholarship fund. So there are actually scholarships available to people who might not otherwise be able to access those. And yeah, so it's, pinning an editor down to talk with an editor. Generally, many of us are introverted. We have our head in a book and working with millions of words. I always try to express that, one book that's a 50,000 word book that we look at and edit over a period of a year or more, several times, and then multiply that times just 10 books, and some editors that are responsible for 20 books. 20 books, it's a lot of eyeballing of text and meetings around that and development of content. And so we don't really have the time away from that work to engage with people, but we do at writers' conferences. And at a writers' conference, those who participate can gain a 30-minute. My sessions are 30 minutes. So sometimes they go over 30 minutes to ask whatever you want about publishing, about Our Daily Bread, about agents, whatever it is that you want to ask and inquire about. And that appointment with an editor is one way to be able to have a relationship such that you can propose content. You know, Our Daily Bread, we've done, I'm looking at these special editions that we've done. This one was one of the earlier ones. We, with the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, there was a partnership, and this is sort of a precursor to all these special editions that are the print ones, and then we have some that are digital special editions.
And I've been in 3 of those. I just want to brag a little bit.
Yeah, and we have one coming that you're in too.
Yeah.
Which is Voices of Faith, 28 Reflections from the African Diaspora, which will release middle of January. Watch for that. So in each of these special editions, there's a Reverend Dr. Noel Hutchinson and other folk who, in a short assignment, provide their wealth for readers, and at the same time, it's a stepping stone into Christian publishing, because Our Daily Bread is recognized, I think, by 60 million viewers globally annually.
But let me emphasize this for those who are watching. Publishing in color is broader than just the Christian market, because even though, and I've said this to Sister Dinkins, even though, yes, I'm a pastor and I do other things within the Christian framework, this platform is broader. This is secular. So, of course, what I do is going to bleed over into this, but this is secular. So for all of you who are watching who are hesitant about getting into publishing in color, because you think, they just trying to make me a Christian, right? No, this is for writers of color. So you need to jump into this and investigate it. I want to encourage you. Now, go ahead.
I do want to interject that for me personally, I emphasize the faith aspect of these conferences.
And that's good.
And also, I want to emphasize that there's traditional publishing, which is working through a publisher like Our Daily Bread Publishing. I've got books here that I could share with you that we publish, and we're talking about what we call royalty-based publishing, where author. And then, but this conference also addresses self-publishing and provides everything from how to launch your book, how to market your book as a self-published author, how to make certain that you get the best quality. So it provides options.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and in closing, let me give you a testimony of how I connected with this wonderful person, and I'll give her final remarks, and you can come to us in any way that you wish. But one of the reasons I'm doing this is because our stories don't get told, and we don't make connections to help people to get to where they need to be. Now, somebody's watching this, and you may feel, well, I want to write, I want to do this, I want to do the other. Let me tell you what happened to me. I had already self-published, and I did enough research to make sure that I did it reasonably well. If I didn't do it reasonably well, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So, because here's what happened. PNBC during its annual session had Sister Dinkins and Dr. Evans doing a workshop on writing, how to get into Christian writing, et cetera, et cetera. I, being busy that day, couldn't attend. I saw it, but I couldn't attend because I told you I have other responsibilities in the convention. But I was walking around with a bag of my books in a knapsack or whatever, came to the room. Of course, Dr. Evans knew me, introduced me to Sister Dinkins, and we started talking. And I told her, well, I'm an author. You know, you got to brag a little bit. Well, what have you written? Bam, I was ready. I said, here is your personal copy of what I've written. Well, first of all, before I even said it that way, I gave her the copy and she started reading it as I was talking. And then I referred to something in the book. She went right to it and started reading it and said, this is good. I said, thank you. So she said, I'd be willing to talk to you for a half hour. I think we said that around 6 o'clock. It was probably about 3 o'clock then. So I'm expecting a half hour meeting. And Dr. Evans said, now, Dr. Hutchinson, you know, you must have impressed her because most people don't get that opportunity. So he said, make the most of it. He said it in front of her. So, you know, I came ready, you know, had my wife with me. Yeah. We wound up talking for 2.5 hours. So out of that, and out of going through Joyce Dinkins Editor's Finishing School, you know, the opportunities came to write for Our Daily Bread. I was on a joint panel that Rasul put together with Christianity Today. And
did a wonderful job.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was wonderful in general. And Kemini Yuan, I interviewed her earlier, and those of you who watch this platform can see my interview with her. So the bottom line is, what you have to understand about life, yes, it's about proficiency, but it's also about relationships, and it's also about being ready. Be ready for your opportunity. It will come, but you need to be ready. So we will provide tags so you can go to publishing in color. And I'm just so appreciative of this time because I know you're busy. I know of your schedule. So for you to do this over a 2-day period, I am honored and blessed. Well, I'm going to give the final, I guess, benediction to you. Say whatever you think we need to hear as we close this out.
I want to finish with some encouragements and at the same time support my writers whom I pray for and love serving. So I'm going to show you our very first book, Our Help. This included, through relationships, 45 African-American authors. Now, I don't know about you. You can go out and see if you can find other literature that's being published. There are opportunities. We repackaged it from a hardcover into a softcover. And again, this is 90 devotions on God's ever-present help. And we found some young writers. We are very much interested. You don't have to have had 10 years of writing. You can be a fresh young writer. We're interested in what you have to say, what your perspectives are. And one of the interns is published in this book and was later hired by the ministry and is now working as an assistant editor. Yeah, God is at work. This book here has 30 testimonies. It's called the Blessed is She, the Transforming Prayer Journeys of 30 African American Women. This is one of our best sellers. I was praying with someone who came and visited the ministry one day, and I'd never met her before. She knew someone else, one of the Dahan family she had met. Before I knew it, she ended up working on an assignment that I needed a writer. who was addressing some domestic violence issues. And she was available. And from that, we were praying together. We do a lot of praying with our writers and for our writers. And the Lord gave us the idea for this book, and there you go. And that book is continuing to do very well. I told you about my encounter at Hampton Ministers Conference and met Dr. Susan Johnson Cook. And thereafter, we did this book with her, and Ambassador Cook's network is extensive, and this includes 40 different African-American female writers.
And she's my home girl. We grew up 5 blocks from each other and didn't know it until Dr. Gardner C. Taylor's funeral, and then realized that one of her best friends lived on my block. So the world is the world is small.
This book, Debbie Turner Bell, is a single author, but and now an agented author. And I don't know the other works that she's working on, but that has been a successful book. And there are others. This is the most recent. This is Natasha Sistrunk Robinson. You ought to interview her if you get an opportunity. Kimini and her run in the same circles, I think. Younger, dynamic, younger than me, dynamic writers, mature women, single author, Bible study. And I told you that when I was 20 years old, long time ago, I can't fail to show my friend's book also, Dr. Carrie Lattimore, who was part of that same panel with you, I believe, and sadly passed away not long after completing this book with us, and the Juneteenth documentary. But I told you that I had always wanted to, God bless him, I always wanted to do children's books. And one of the first books that I got to do at Our Daily Bread, I met in Chicagoland the Coretta Scott King award-winning illustrator Jan Spivey Gilchrist, and we began doing children's books, and we're still doing children's books. This is translated into Spanish.
Wow!
Because there are children of color.
Exactly.
Right, and Jan has in her I say the zenith of her career as an illustrator of over 100 children's books, 100 books, done some beautiful work. This is based in the Psalms. And so there are opportunities. This is her most recent one.
Wow.
And of course, she's the individual who whose artistry is published in the calendar I showed you earlier. All of these come out of whether you're a Christian believer or not. Certainly, we can agree that there's a divine orchestrator.
Oh, definitely.
I call him Jesus.
Amen.
And these come out of divine orchestration. The work does, our work together, my work with Dr. Evans and with Reverend Hutchinson and others at Progressives. And the work that I get to do daily comes out, those relationships come out of God bringing us together to serve needs that are unmet, and to go further than we've been able to go before. We may not get to do everything that we like to do or see everything we'd like to see, but we should be encouraged to pursue, continue to pursue literacy and our place in publishing. So I appreciate your time.
Oh,
I
thank
hope some
you.
folk will sign up for that conference and ask for an appointment with me or with one of the other people. Publishing is opening up even more, than before, and publishers are recognizing, both secular publishers and Christian publishers, recognizing not only the need for it, but the benefit of it.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit of providing representation for diverse people. Yeah.
I agree, because the premise of what we're doing here is the stories you haven't heard that need to be told. And so that generally can fit across the landscape of, diaspora life. Our stories are not being told. So guess who has to tell them? We do. Well, look, thank
And
you.
we can.
We can. That's right. We can.
We can. It's not impossible.
Exactly. We must. Let me put it that way, that we must tell
Yes.
the story.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for being with us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your hectic schedule to be with us. Thank you so much. We have some more for you from this awesome woman. And in the meantime, click the links for Publishing in Color. You want to attend that virtual conference. All right. Until next time, see you later. And don't forget, subscribe. Peace.